Hi, I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Mastering E3 series. In this video, I'm going to take you through a short introduction into harness design within E3. In order to do this, I'll use a pre-drawn circuit and I'll use this data in order to generate a Formboard drawing in E3. As you'll be able to see from my screen, I have a lovely pre-drawn circuit, which is a bit random, but what I've done is I've included a series of different connectors, I've included a series of splices, and I have placed physical data onto all of my connections. Okay, so there are loads of 1mm blue wires, which are my favourite. From here, in E3, I would then go right-click to add in a new sheet. When I add in my new sheet, as we're able to see, I've got an option of type. Now for this one, it's important for me to select a Formboard type. Okay, this means when I place my connectors onto the new sheet, they will take up Formboard views. In E3, you can have a number of different views of a component, but in order for them to connect together, they have to be like views. So in order to get around this in Formboard, when we place a connector onto a Formboard sheet, it will automatically adopt a Formboard view, which is unique. So what I'll do is now I'll just press OK. Now, to note for a Formboard, obviously they would normally be done to scale. So in order to do this, I may want to have a bigger sheet. In order to do this, I would just go to Sheet Properties, and I could go to the Format, and then for this one specifically, I'm going to choose a DIN A2. Okay, so it's not too big, but you can choose bigger should you need. You could also have done that when you were generating the sheet in the first place. Now I'm going to press OK. Now I have my Formboard sheet. I'm then going to my device tree, and all of my connectors have the designation of X. As we can see here, X1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm now going to go right click on my component, and here I get the option to place on Formboard. As you can see, it then brings up this place on Formboard dialog box, and the first option here is a Formboard side view. As it's a complete device, I don't get the option to change the view number as this is unique to Formboard. I'm then going to do the option of place, and as we can see here, I then bring in my connector with a table associated with it. These tables could be deleted. If I want to do, I could press delete, and it disappears. If I wanted to bring it back, I could go right click and go place table symbol, and as shown here. Also to note, this is the table that's been brought in, which is the table symbol 2. Now you can have different tables in E3. So what you would do is you could go to your symbol properties, and then from here you could also then select, you could have table symbol for Formboard. As we can see here, this also then includes connector pin terminal information. If you wanted this to be default, you could go to the tools, settings. In the settings, you go to Formboard, and as we can see here, we have table symbol, and this has been preset to be table symbol 2. For this, I will now set this to be table symbol for FB. Okay, so the next step will be to draw another connector. So let's choose X2, and we'll choose place on Formboard. As we can see here, there's a top view, and there's a side view, so we'll just place this down here, as shown. Okay, then we'll just do the same for all the other ones. So we'll place that as a side view, fantastic. Let's just zoom out and we'll flip that using the Y command and place the table symbol with it. And go X4, place on Formboard. And this is a lovely, so you see we've got the two views, the HTTP connector. I'm now going to flip this using Y. You will have to forgive me guys, a lot of my drawings are very 90 degrees, which I have been told isn't necessarily how you may do a Formboard, but this is how I have experience using it in the past. Place on Formboard. Place that side view, as we can see down here, and this is also going to have a table symbol associated with it. So let's just move this up a second. As we can see, we have these blue lines, okay? These show that there is signal between all the connections. I could also turn that off, and I could then go to core logic lines, okay? And these signal logic lines show that there is signal logic between these connectors. Now what I would do is, similar to in schematic, you can now generate a connection. So to do this, I could press the C command, and if I press it now, it's now going to have the option to select it, and you can see how a box is generated around the symbol. I'm now going to go across and I'm going to find the other connector. Connect that together. Now, this red dashed line means it is not currently to scale, but we will sort that out later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect them up again. So let's just choose this one. And what I can do is obviously I could do it in a 90-degree fashion. Okay, or if you press Shift, you could also then angle your connector. So I press that. As we can see, it then generates the view at an angle. I'm not going to do that for this drawing, however. I will just choose it as a nice 90-degree angle. However, this one, I will now press C. I will press Shift. And when I do that, I'll connect it to this node point, and then I'll have it at a slight angle. So then what we can do is we can move it should we wish. I'm then going to go down here and do the final connection as shown and connect that to that node. Now, one thing we haven't done is placed our splices. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure where these splices belong, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto this line here. When I right click, I get the option to add a node. This node creates a disconnecting point in that line, which allows me to place a splice onto it. Okay, also allows you to generate different size lengths either side of it on that segment. So I press current position and press OK. As we can see, I've now got a node, right? And it is grayed out at the moment, as we can see, because it is locked, so I cannot move it around. So I'm pressing right now, cannot move. If I right click on it, I could then go to unlock node, and then I could move the node should I wish. So let's just zoom back out. And what I'm going to do is go to devices, and I'm going to place X6 on Formboard, place a splice as so, and the splice will also come with a connector table. I'm now going to go onto this line here, add another node. You could then also do it, if you'd already done it to scale, you could then select the scaling, but I'm going to do it in the current position for now, and I'm going to place X7 on this line here. And I'm going to place that as shown, and then I'll pop the table symbol down here perhaps, okay? You can also see these black arrows, okay? These are what we call subsidiary lines, okay? If you don't want to show these, you can also turn those off in the settings. So if I go to settings, Formboard, and you can say display subsidiary lines, press OK, they will then disappear, okay, as shown, okay? Now the next step would be to start putting dimensions onto your drawing. So if I go to my connection properties, as we can see, I have an option of a manufacturing length and displayed lengths. So currently, I've got a manufacturing length of 0 and display length of 104, so it's a very small harness. So what we would do is we would then pick a dimension appropriate to it. Okay, so we may have done this in MCAD, or we may have very well gone and used a piece of string on a machine. I know that's how they used to do it in the older days, and you may well do it now. But you then choose an appropriate length. So I'm going to choose 110 millimeters for this instance, and I'm going to choose to adjust segment length and press OK. As we can see, the line has now changed to blue. Okay, now this means it is to scale. So if I print this out through a plotter perhaps, it will then show this is a length of 110 millimeters. I can then do the same on this line. So this is currently 116. So let's say it was supposed to be 130 perhaps. Press that, choose the adjust segment length option and press OK. As you will see, it will then extend the line. You can see this arrow here. This arrow determines which way the line will be extended. Okay, if you wish to swap that, if you go back to the connection properties, you can change the effective direction. So you could swap that and then it will then extend out that way. Okay, if I now press OK. Now you would then go through and you would make all of these lines to scale if you were doing a form board. So then you could print it out, you could pop your nails onto your wooden board perhaps, and then you could make your form board. I'm not going to do that for this instance, okay? I'm going to just leave the top ones as done to scale. I'm then going to go down here into my attribute text template options, and I'm going to pick up a segment length horizontal. I'm going to do right click, place continuously. So this will give me the option then to start placing some lengths and dimensions onto these lines to show what sizes they are. Okay. So currently that's been set to 0. Obviously we'd change that. If I go to vertical, I can then place it on this line here, and this line here, and this line here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just delete the extra one that I added in as well. Okay, as you can see, we've now got a drawing with some dimensions onto it. What else may you want to put onto a harness? Well, you may well want to put on some cable protection. So if I go to the component tab, in the component tab, I can then go up to cable protection, which lives a bit further up, which lives here. Now within E3, there are loads of pre-made cable protections that you could use as templates for your additional parts, and I may show you that in a database video in future. But for this instance, I'm just going to go pick this one here. What I'm then going to go do is find a piece of conduit that has been set up in the database to run on a segment. Okay, so this is based on how the symbol is generated. So if I choose this one here and right click and go place on segment, I can then pick to select it onto this line here. Okay, as you see, it only highlights that segment up to the node. So if I click that, if I wanted to, and this was just going to be the only piece of conduit that I show, if I press enter, it will then confirm the placing of it. I could also go right click, place on segment, and what I could do is I could place it along here, and then along all the way down, and keep going, and keep going. Then I could do a piece of conduit that goes all the way through this harness, okay? So the two individual parts, okay? So they may well be different sizes, perhaps. So now if I continue this here, if I go right click, place on segment, place it here, and there we go. We now have conduit protection all over our harness. What you may also want to do, okay, is have a front view of the connector. So if I zoom into X3 here, what I could do is I could go to the right click, I could then press onto place new device view. In here, I could then pick the TP, which is our top view in this instance. As you can see, it's going to be view number 1. I'm going to place it as a complete device, so I only get one of the symbols. If I had it as single pins, it will then place 2 pins for the connector. If I now go place, I can then place this next to the connector as shown and make sure it's of the right orientation. Okay, and what you could do is then you could then define which pin is 1 and which pin is 2. Okay, so there's no ambiguity over which pins they are which. Now, what you may also notice is on our splice tables, the text is currently overlapped. Now, this is because you have 3 cores on one line. Now, in order to get around this, what I would do is I would right click on the table, I would go to the symbol properties. In the symbol properties, you'll notice the option of display 1 row for each core. I'm now going to click on that and press OK. And what that will do is that will generate a new line for each of those individual cores associated with that splice. So what you may be able to now see is I've now shown you through a brief introduction into harness design within E3, and this is a topic we will further explore in further videos. Thank you. So I'd just like to thank you guys for watching this video on harness design within E3.series. If you have any questions, please feel free to send an email.
Harry, get hoops already.
Are they Heinz?
Of course.
Oh my god, guys, got to go.